Hello, my lovely friends. So, real briefly, we're going to talk about the differences between hosteling, staying at a hotel, and couchsurfing. I think these are all really interesting, and there are other ways, I'm sure, that you know of how to travel and find places to stay. But I wanted to make this clip because, just I had some thoughts that I wanted to share, and I think that of the three, I prefer hosteling. But I've had some really pleasant experiences and some, I don't want to say nightmarish experiences, but experiences that you wouldn't have wanted to have gotten into, like in terms of the quality of management, the conditions of the room, those kinds of things. So let's take each one in turn. So let's start with hotels. Hotels are great. If you want to stay in a hotel, hotels are fantastic because you have your privacy. I have stayed in real nice hotels and cheap ones as well. And you have your privacy, you have your room, if you need to log online, you can. And you got your space. You could travel with your family, you could travel with your friends. In some, you could even have pets. Somebody mentioned, and this is by means no endorsement, but La Quinta Inn, I've never stayed in one, but that they allow pets, so you got to check that. In some cases, there's no pet fee, and so that's one option. I stayed at one that allowed a dog before. It was kind of cool, and so that it was helpful too. The hostels, what I think are, I prefer hostels over hotels, and I'm going to explain. That's next. I stayed at one in Tennessee called the Rock and Roll Music Hostel. I believe it's called Music City Hostel, I believe, something like that. And I think I got the name right, and if I don't, I'll correct it in the comment section. Music City Hostel. And it has that rock and roll theme, but they're amazing. The management staff is incredible, and what they're able to do there, and they're expanding. They're able to build a sense of community. So when you go there, you'll meet people many times, and I've always, it hasn't, you'll get invited out to do things. See, the hostel, what I like about the hostel is you can go in and out. You have your own privacy, your own room, and especially I've traveled with friends. It's very helpful to travel with friends. I've also met people in the hostels, and then hung out with them, gone out to eat dinner, gone out on the town, went to some clubs to check out music or to go dancing, walked along the beach. I've done interesting things like that at hostels. Now, couch surfing is great, and I know that some people want to save money to do it that way, but it's fine if you want to do it that way. It's totally fine, but couch surfing is hit or miss in my view. I think it's great for local advice. If you want to get local advice, you want the local flavor, you want to be plugged in, but you're at the mercy of whoever's going to respond to your post in some cases. You could go to the CS meetup groups, the couch surfing meetup groups. They have different themes, so you can do different things that are nice, and then they have a lot of activities. They have a lot of like-minded individuals there. What I have noticed is that there seems to be a little more of bias towards people in their 20s, and that if you're of a different age, it's a little challenging. Now, what I've done is I've done some tests. So what I put my, I've just asked questions. I said, so what is there to do in this city? And it's amazing because people do respond, But it's interesting too. What I noticed was, I've noticed that there's a meeting people column, and there were people that were responding. And in the cases of the males, they got fewer responses than the females. And not only that, I've seen cases where if somebody mentioned you want to grab a drink, and another person would also mention that you want to grab a drink, certain cases they would just respond to the one that seemed more permanent, like the person was going to move to the city. So it was kind of strange to me because I was thinking, well, the couch surfing community is kind of nice because I thought you're welcoming travelers too. Yes and no. I've noticed in several different cities, they seem more oriented towards the community that's surfing in the city or the town. So what I mean is, if they know that you're going to be around for a few months, if they know that you're going to be living there or moving there, I think there's a difference. And so what I did is I put like, so what's there to do in this town or what's in this city? And I had 4 people respond just recently. I was just curious, and I put in there, if anyone's going that way, let me know, I'm going to this street or that. I was just, saying that. And what's interesting is when I put that down, there were people telling me they're very helpful answering the questions, but there wasn't that agreement to go with me to these places. I'll show you around. In fact, one person said, "Enjoy your visit," at the end, and so it was interesting. But another person said he's moving out there, and he said that if you want to grab some drinks, I know 0 people. And then all of a sudden, he had the same number of responses. I mean, even before I had posted, he had to have this, and they're definitely in. He said, "Who else is in?" So one person responded. He said, "Who else is in?" He asked, and then other people responded. Now, why I'm telling you this is it's interesting because in his case, he didn't have any definitive plans. It was totally open-ended, and he's also moving there. You see, and roughly same time frame. I was just kind of putting it out there, But what's interesting is, I think that it's hit or miss. It's hit or miss. So then, if you are somebody that is wanting to, meet up with people there, well, you're not going to. If you're at the mercy of whoever's going to respond to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So what I like about hostels is that you have a hostel and it's better in terms of meeting people in the hostel. Am I making sense? So you have like 50 people or 100 people or 30 people and you meet people from all over the world. Now you're not going to talk to everybody there. Some cases you are. In some cases I've played music. Where else are you going to play Adele's music? You know what I mean? I played piano, show tunes, sang with people from England, that were singing the vocal majors that were singing her music. You're just not going to get that in a couchsurfing experience in many cases. Also, with couchsurfing, I think you're kind of at the mercy of whoever's hosting you. And I've noticed that, and the reason I say that I think it's great if you're wanting to go to a town and you don't care about meeting too many different people. Now, I say that with a grain of salt because there are cases where somebody can introduce you to their friends in the community, and then you can, when they introduce you to the friends in the community, you can plug in. Like I know that here in Cincinnati, there are a lot of people that are plugged in. So if you were to come to Cincinnati or wherever, there would be places that you could be plugged into, and they would be taking you out and doing things. It is kind of interesting. So I think that it's something to think about. It's something to think about because you don't know who, it's you don't know where you're going to go or what you're going to be doing. And I think if you're open for whatever, if you don't have a structured purpose for being there, then I guess that that might work. What I've also noticed is if you go to a hostel and you travel with people and then go to festivals, like I was looking on the Couchsurfing page for Toronto, and what's interesting is the Toronto page has tons. One of the organizers of the page and the community, one of the groups, Couchsurfing Toronto, he had like 9 activities listed. So then you could use an activity and say, well, I'm going to this one. Now keep in mind you're staying in a hostel or a hotel, or you're with a friend there. See, in that situation, you could go back home. You have your internet, you have your place to go back to. And then you could meet with them and then hang out. So a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people are also using Couchsurfing. They ask you, how do you want to participate? What I like about Couchsurfing is that it's also, this is a pro, and it's actually better than the hostel. You actually know who's going to be there. Hostels are hit or miss too. You don't know what's going to happen. I've been at hostels before, and there was one in Tampa that was really good. It was great, but you're also at the mercy of whoever's there. You can make some friends, and some are going to be lifelong friends, some are not. And there was one in Miami that I stayed at that was incredible. I made a lot of close friends there. A lot of people you just wouldn't meet otherwise, but it's the way that it's organized. People from all around the world, and I think that's again one of the advantages of hosteling. You meet people in a popular city. And so one recommendation I would have, and I've done this, is I would Google or search for hostels in North America or Europe or Asia or wherever. And what I would do is I would try to find out where the major cities are, look at the reviews. The reviews are really important. A good website is TripAdvisor, but then Hosteling International, what's the other one? Hostel World. Again, these aren't endorsements, but these are just ones that you might want to check out. And then what's interesting too is somebody brought this up, that you could find a cheap place to stay, and then you're paying money to see the sights. So there was a lady from Brazil who posted, and she said this about Philadelphia, that she was staying at a hostel that was like far from the downtown city. I don't know what she meant by that, but downtown area, and so she had to take a cab. She said it cost her $25. With the amount of money she saved by living, staying farther out of the center, she paid more actually. So it's kind of ironic that you got to factor in, well, what would the cab costs be? What activities are there? And my recommendation is, you got to do your own research, but I would stay where you feel safe. I would stay where you feel central to things. I would stay where you feel that there's a lot to do and you don't mind wherever it is. Also, parking for your automobile. Are you close to public transportation? So I'm a fan of hostels, and make sure everything's clean, neat, and organized. I've stayed at a hostel before that had issues with their rooms. And it's not worth the savings. I realized you could stay in a bungalow or a small bed and breakfast. A bed and breakfast is an improvement as well. And again, a bed and breakfast kind of blends in a little bit of the couch surfing element with the hosteling element, depending on how large it is. But you get that local advice. They're welcoming visitors in many cases, and it's something I've stayed at different types of situations. And again, this is not to reflect poorly on hotels. I've stayed in really fancy hotels, really cheap ones, as I mentioned earlier. And I've noticed that the amenities of the advanced, the hotels, the really nice hotels, are wonderful for conferences. So I went to Toronto and I stayed at the Toronto Convention Center's hotel. And it was pretty interesting when I did that, because that hotel was outrageous, I thought, in terms of what they had. I mean, it had every amenity. The rooms were something like $330 to $350 a night, so I didn't go to sleep that. But I didn't know, coming from the U.S., just going there for that conference, I felt like, well, that's what it's costing. And then I found a cheaper alternative. You could stay at a hostel for $80. It's pretty expensive. The ones that I found outside of the convention center, $80, and then there were some that were $100. But what I'm saying is, obviously, that was not, as nice. But what was interesting is I was able to use the pool. They had a massive pool. They had a great area for meals. The lobby, they had all beautiful views. They took photographs. I think that's one thing you have to ask yourself. You got to ask yourself, what is it that you want to see? What is it that you want to do? What kind of experiences do you want to have? And there's no right or wrong answer. But one thing I would ask is, where do you feel included? Where do you feel is inclusive? Because when you go to a city, you want to be able to stay somewhere. It's all hit or miss with couchsurfing. Hotels and hosteling, there's some security. On the other hand, the local advice, or bed and breakfast even, they're better, right? There's local advice. There's local advice you could pursue and try to learn from, and then you can kind of make your own decision. Also, one thing that I found from what a lot of travelers do is they kind of mix or match what they do. So some will stay in a couch surfing situation in remote cities where there are no hostels, and when they go to a major city, they'll stay in a hostel. There is no right or wrong answer, but I just wanted you to share it. And as your income improves, if you're starting out and you're in your 20s, and I mean, you don't want to just do it to save money. You want to do it to meet people if you're couch surfing or doing things like that. I have couch surfed before. There was a guy in Indianapolis who was really gracious. He met me, even paid for dinner. Took me back to his place. We chatted. I did some online work there, and then I was on my way. So he was just fantastic, phenomenal. You just wouldn't get that kind of, you wouldn't have that experience any other way. I think that the more you do it, the more people are into that mindset, the better it is. And I have noticed that there are older people there, but I noticed a lot of these people are college students, or they're in between, or they're starting their career, taking a break, moving for a job offer. Some of them have 2 months to travel, and they don't have a lot of money, so then they do this, or they're planning a trip around Europe. So it's kind of interesting. I think that also what's important is check out the profile, check out the references, be upfront and honest. I want to just quickly share real quickly. I had a situation where I was going to introduce a person who was doing a documentary. She was from the Netherlands. And she set up an appointment. I said, you know what, I teach sociology, and I can introduce you to political connections downtown that I had and at the time. And she actually totally did not, she said yes, she confirmed the time, didn't call back, didn't respond to text. She had met somebody north of the city, about 30 miles north, had spent the day interviewing him, totally did not respond, didn't email, didn't call or anything. And so what's interesting is, although you read of cases where in Couchsurfing they say that it's the host that cancels at the last minute. You also have that nightmare to deal with if that happens, right? If you're going to stay somewhere, and the person doesn't call or doesn't show up or isn't there, now you have no place to stay, then what do you do, right? This is the reverse. This is where, I canceled plans or moved things around to see this person, to make time to, okay, here are the phone numbers you need. Let me answer any questions you have, because, she was gathering information for her documentary. And what's interesting about that is, I think she realized it after I posted the review on her wall. I said, and I was trying to be neutral, not negative, but I explained, that, I just wanted to have that dialogue that, wow, I set aside this time, you were going to come, didn't even call, didn't email or didn't do anything, and you just got to let it go. But what's important about that is, and then that also happened in another case. It just happened recently where there was a girl from Spain, and she actually wanted some help, wanted some advice on the music scene here. So there again, and it was kind of hit or miss. And then she was getting ready to go back to Spain, and I even posted on the wall. And so she actually contacted me and emailed me, and I responded. Again, it's kind of, I don't want to say flaky, but wow, where's the quality of responding? I'm absolutely going to help you, and then tell her about the coffee shop scene. I had other contacts, musician friends here. So the thing is, if you're going to ask somebody for advice or help, or you need to meet with them for coffee or something, and you want to pick their brains, feel free to do that. You may want to treat them also, but they could probably treat you, But also the mentality of, let me be respectful, let me have open communication, let me not just brush off the person after I establish contact with that person. It just, to me, it would seem like common sense and courtesy. But that's, so that's the other thing. What I think, that's something you have to pay. It's a small point, but it's something you might want to pay attention to in relation to Couchsurfing. So what I will do is I'll document in the next clip, I'll document some more specific experiences and adventures too. And in this one, you're just kind of getting a flavor of the differences between, primarily between Couchsurfing and hosteling, but you also see the advantage of hotels. And the other thing is the communal kitchens in the hostel. Those are a lot of fun. I remember a 4th of July pasta dinner with the guy from Italy, and then my friend that was traveling with me also from the U.S., we're in the U.S., and we went to this hostel. We bought a lot of groceries and cooked and had a meal for everyone, taught them the importance of the 4th of July. So again, that kind of magical experience, which overlaps a little bit with Couchsurfing. But the hostels are wonderful for that reason, and again, that sense of community. So again, those are my thoughts on those types of situations, hotels, hostels, and Couchsurfing, with the nod towards the latter two. And we even touched upon very briefly bed and breakfasts, but it is helpful to think about those kinds of differences, and I would welcome any feedback. And there are many other things that you could do on Couchsurfing, and we'll talk about that. I'm not by any means any expert on it, but I have enough research into it and have quite a bit of an understanding of it to comment on it. And thanks for listening and watching this, and I'd love to hear your feedback and any thoughts.